psyche, and spirit, growing one awareness at a time.
Hello everyone, it's Dr. Shay. Let's talk about seeking simplicity for well-being and for balance in your life. My suggestion right now, in the midst of all this chaos, is to simplify your life as much as you can. Remove what doesn't fit, what doesn't fit with your values, or maybe is not necessarily a high priority for you. And you might even want to challenge your priorities a little bit during this time to keep things really simple. Simplifying can help with presence. And so if you do the things that will help you bring you balance in life and focus on those things and the things that bring you meaning and value, then the other things kind of fall away. Some of the less important things will start to fall away. So the point of simplifying is to clarify your values, to bring you presence, and to highlight what's meaningful for you in life. So eat when you need to, rest when you need to, feel emotions when you need to, when they come up. Love when you want to, move your body when it feels like it needs to be moved, all of those things, exercise, right? Listen to what you need in the moment. That's also another part of that simplifying process, is listening to what you need. If you feel out of balance, my suggestion would be to just take one action. For example, maybe you do need more movement, more exercise, so you're going to go walking a couple of times. Maybe you're going to dance to some music when you need to. Put less energy into work for a day. Maybe you call in sick and give yourself a mental health day or whatever. Go to sleep earlier. Get out and walk, work out, dance, as I mentioned. Maybe reach out to a loved one if you're feeling lonely. If you're on the opposite side of the spectrum and you're spending a lot of time around other people, maybe what you need is to withdraw. Maybe what you need is to withdraw and take time to yourself. If you're busy and a parent, you still can make one kind of change and still prioritize what really matters, right? If that's family and yourself and your own health, and maybe if you obviously work is a part of that process too, but making sure that you are caring for yourself is really, really important. So when we talk about simplifying, seek simplification in your life to bring back a little bit more well-being and balance. That also means, again, highlighting the things that maybe you can give up or don't need, that are actually moving you away from balance. Or do the things that will bring you more balance. It can be framed in the other way, as I discussed, with exercise, with maybe going to sleep a little bit earlier if that's what your body needs. And again, it's hard. We're all busy, and I get it. We are all busy. As a psychologist, I can't tell you how many times I had to remind people in therapy to take care of themselves, to simplify things, break things down into pieces, and to take care of themselves. And that stands to reason that it works the same for all the rest of us too. Try not to overcomplicate things right now. Again, there's a lot of chaos going on. You don't need to overthink things. You don't need to overcomplicate things. Simplify as much as you can in your life right now. Be present for yourself and for others, but also recognizing your limits, right? This is also where the boundaries come in. If you're simplifying your life, you might actually need to set some boundaries. No, I'm not going to go out with this family member on this night to go get dinner. I'm not feeling like I'm up for it. I don't have the energy. Saying no when you need to, again, setting some boundaries. Maybe I'm not going to take my work home with me tonight. I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to work on a Sunday. When I was back when I was a visiting professor a long time ago, and I still am, but back when I was the first time, around 2018, 2020, I would work 5 days a week plus Sundays, and that drove me nuts. I started setting a boundary that I was not going to do that regularly anymore. And my life has improved. And I'll get back to that in a second. But just making sure that you're grounding yourself to the present moment and doing what you need to do to meet your needs. That's really simple. It's really basic, but we all need that reminder sometimes. And maybe you need that reminder right now for whatever reason. You might be tempted to overthink things, again, overanalyze things and just get up in your head about every little thing. I do that too. But challenge yourself to simplify your environment around you. Simplify yourself internally by just focusing on being present and focus on the things that you value and you prioritize and that bring you meaning in life and balance. Sometimes we need a reminder just to slow down, and this is your reminder now. I'll say it again. Eat when you're hungry, drink water when you're thirsty, sleep when you're tired, exercise when your body feels keyed up and restless. Laugh more, love, connect, do the things that help you feel a little bit more in balance and a little bit more in line with feeling good. Limit social media if at all possible, especially if it's not leaving you feeling balanced or positive, which rarely does social media do that now. A lot of people are, for example, right now, really following the Lindsay Clancy murder case. Sure, and we should all be very informed about things, and I understand that. But also, if you go down a bunch of rabbit holes, it can get really dark and can bring us down. Maybe limit your time with some of those things. Again, social media is not always positive. It's not always pleasant, and it doesn't always have a positive effect on us, as we know from a lot of research. So just make sure that you're limiting some of those things that are not really balanced or in moderation. And for me, I want to come back to that work example of when I was first a visiting professor. I spent so much time on work at that time in my life, and I regret it. I don't regret a lot of things, but I, at that time in my life, thought that's what I had to do. It's what I had to do in order to move up and to get the tenure track position that I was aiming for at the time. And so I'm aiming to keep it really simple now. I have changed my priorities. So at the time, work was my number one priority, and that was before I had a child. But my relationship suffered. And not having Sundays and only having one day a week off from work drove me nuts and made me feel like I didn't have as much time for my relationship, for myself, just for general well-being. And so part of my simplification process has also been a deep dive into what I value and understanding that maybe what I was valuing needed to change. And at that time, I valued money over other things. And now I don't see it that way. And so I prioritized work far higher than I do now. I certainly do work, and we all have to work, but I don't prioritize it in the same way that I used to. It comes actually after my family and me. Whatever I have time left over after that is work. And so that big shift didn't happen overnight, and I had to do a lot of self-work on that to get there. But my life is much better as a result. And I've started to see things quite differently since that point. That was 6 to 8 years ago, and that was a long time ago, but I've learned some lessons since that time, and I'm still learning, obviously. We all are. But work will never be my number one anymore. That is the reality. It will never be my number one priority anymore. I've changed my values. The lesson, though, and I learned from it. Because I will never go back to that again. I will never go back to working on Sundays, even though I still teach. I will never go back to working every Sunday ever again. I set a lot more boundaries. Again, part of that is that I value myself more. So that was part of my process in simplifying my own life, was deciding that work and money were actually not my top priority. We have to work, and that is the reality. To bring it to the bigger picture, we do have to work. A lot of us have to work financially. Unless you're part of the 1%, you do need to make money in some way, but maybe that path is not going to look the way that you thought it would, and it certainly doesn't for me. I have no plans to ever try to teach in a tenure track position ever again, and I don't even know how long I'll be teaching. But what I do know is I enjoy the work that I do now, and I am okay with where I'm at now, and I set boundaries, and that is really quite a win for me. My life is more balanced as a result. I do feel better as a result of that, and happier. And I have more time to spend with my family, and I have more time to do the things that I want to do, and I love that. And that was a big shift for me, and it was not easy again. It took a lot of work, but that was one way that I simplified my life, is to shift the priorities. And once I did that, I think it helps clear the way for other opportunities in work and finding what is actually going to bring you the most meaning in your job. So simplify your life such that what you value most is what you're going to focus on. And that is the key. Focus on what you value most, and that will guide you to actually simplify your life. Again, take a small step for yourself if that's all you want to do right now or can do right now. If that's something as simple as getting a little bit more sleep every night or getting enough sleep tonight, great. That's shifting, it's movement, it's change. People often think that you have to make a big leap and do something really scary in order to change, but that's not how change has to work. It can work in really small increments. It can work in small steps. And in fact, I've really encouraged people to break change down and goals down into really small, realistic, and time-limited steps so that they don't feel overwhelmed, because the moment you feel overwhelmed, you're going to shut down. So simplify your life in some small way by bringing yourself back into presence and back into balance, and also prioritizing the things that really bring you value and meaning in your life. That is my suggestion to you right now. All right, take care. Bye-bye.